The village of Ndarima was small but full of life. Children ran barefoot through the dusty paths, women gathered at the river to fetch water, and men worked tirelessly on their farms. In the heart of this village lived a boy named Temba. He was not just any boy, he was different. Temba had been born into a family that struggled to make ends meet. His father, Mzee Juma, was a farmer whose crops often failed due to unpredictable weather. His mother, Mama Rahima, sold firewood at the market, but the little money she made was barely enough to feed the family. Many nights, they slept hungry. Many mornings, they awoke unsure of where the next meal would come from. But despite all this, Temba was always happy. He had a smile that could light up the darkest of days. He would wake up before dawn, his stomach empty, but his heart full of hope. He would fetch water from the river, his small feet sinking into the wet mud as he carried the heavy jerrycan on his head. He would help his mother tie firewood into neat bundles, ready for the market. And then, without fail, he would grab his tattered schoolbooks and rush off to school. Temba's uniform was old and patched in several places, his shoes had holes in them, and his school bag was nothing more than an old sack his mother had sewn together. But none of that mattered to him. What mattered was that he was learning. At school, he was the brightest student in the class. His teachers noticed something special about him. The way he listened so attentively, the way he answered questions with confidence, and the way he never complained about anything. No matter how hard life was, Temba never let it break his spirit. One day, during a math lesson, the teacher wrote a complex problem on the blackboard. Many students scratched their heads, struggling to find the answer. But Temba's hand shot up.
Yes, Temba.
The teacher called. Without hesitation, he walked to the board, picked up the piece of chalk, and solved the problem effortlessly. The class erupted in whispers.
How does he do it?
One student murmured.
He's always working after school. When does he even study?
The teacher smiled.
Well done, Temba. You are truly gifted.
But Temba did not see himself as special. To him, he was just a boy trying to change his destiny. As soon as school ended, while other children played, Temba hurried off to find work. Some days he herded cattle. Other days he collected firewood for the elderly, and sometimes he helped carry heavy loads for traders in the market. He never complained, never showed weakness. Instead, he worked with joy, humming songs as he moved from one task to another. The villagers noticed his hardworking nature.
That boy is something else,
They often said.
He's not only smart, but he is also kind and humble.
Though life was tough, Temba refused to give in. He knew one thing for certain. His story would not end in poverty. He was determined to rise, to learn, to excel. His dreams were bigger than the hardships he faced. And so, every night, after a long day of school and work, he would sit under the moonlight, his worn-out books spread out before him. His eyes burned with exhaustion, but he kept reading, kept pushing forward. Because deep in his heart, he knew one day he would change not just his life, but the lives of everyone around him. The sun hung low in the sky as Temba rushed out of school, his books clutched tightly in his hands. While other children ran to play, laughing and kicking up dust along the village paths, Temba had no time for games. There was work to do. As he made his way through the village, he heard familiar voices calling out to him.
Temba, come help me carry this water.
An elderly woman, Mama Zawadi, called from the well. He did not hesitate. He ran over, took the heavy bucket from her frail hands, and lifted it effortlessly.
Ah, may you be blessed, my son.
She said, placing a wrinkled hand on his shoulder.
You are a gift to this village.
Temba only smiled. It warmed his heart to help others. From the well, he hurried to Mzee Aching's farm, where he spent an hour gathering dry maize stalks under the scorching sun. Sweat trickled down his face, but he did not stop. He worked with the same energy and determination he brought to his studies. After finishing at the farm, he moved to the market, where Mama Rahima, his mother, sold firewood. She was struggling to balance a heavy bundle on her back.
Let me help you, Mama,
he said, gently lifting the bundle from her shoulders. His mother looked at him, her eyes full of love and worry.
You work too much, my son.
She sighed.
I must, Mama.
He said, smiling.
We have to make sure there is food on the table.
Though he was only a boy, he carried responsibilities far beyond his years. And yet, no one ever heard him complain. He did everything with joy, his bright smile never fading. One evening, the village chief's wife, Mama Naliaka, saw Temba carrying a heavy basket of vegetables for the market seller. She called him over.
Temba, my son.
She said, looking at him closely.
Tell me, do you ever get tired?
Temba chuckled.
Of course, Mama Naliaka. But I have dreams, and dreams do not wait for rest.
She smiled, impressed by his wisdom.
You are destined for great things, child.
Word spread quickly about the boy who worked harder than anyone and still managed to be the top student in school. His teachers admired him deeply. One day, his class teacher, Mr. Okello, called him aside after school.
Temba, tell me the truth.
He said, placing a hand on his shoulder.
When do you even study? You are always working.
Temba smiled, his eyes shining with determination.
At night, sir. When the village is quiet, and the only sound is the wind in the trees.
The teacher shook his head in amazement.
You are a remarkable boy.
But Temba did not see himself as special. He only knew one thing: if he wanted to change his life, he had to work for it. And so, with every sack he carried, every field he tilled, and every book he read under the dim moonlight, he was building his future. A future he knew would one day make the entire village proud. The morning sun painted the sky with golden streaks as Temba hurried to school, his feet kicking up dust along the narrow village path. His worn-out uniform clung to his body, damp with sweat from the early morning chores he had completed before heading to class. But nothing could dim the fire in his heart. Today was an important day. The school had announced an academic competition, one that would determine the best student among not just his classmates, but students from neighboring villages. For Temba, this was more than a competition. It was a chance to prove to himself, to his teachers, and to his village that hard work and determination could conquer all. As he entered the classroom, whispers filled the air.
Temba will win.
One student said.
But how?
Another asked.
He works all the time. When does he even study?
Temba heard them, but he only smiled. What they didn't know was that while they slept at night, he sat under the dim glow of a flickering lantern, studying every page of his tattered textbooks. When the wind howled through the village and the mosquitoes buzzed around his ears, he kept reading. When exhaustion tried to pull him into sleep, he reminded himself of his dreams. He wanted a better life. He wanted to change his story. The headmaster, Mr. Wanyama, stood before the eager students in the assembly hall. His deep voice echoed through the room.
This is not just a test of knowledge,
he declared.
It is a test of perseverance, patience, and determination. May the best student win.
The exam papers were handed out. Temba took a deep breath. The questions were tough, but he was tougher. With every question he answered, he remembered the nights he had spent memorizing formulas, the afternoons he had stolen moments between work to revise his notes, and the sacrifices he had made just to be sitting in that chair. Time flew. The final bell rang. The papers were collected. And now, all that was left was to wait. The following day, the entire school gathered in the assembly hall once again. The tension in the air was thick. The headmaster cleared his throat and held up the list of results.
In third place,
he began.
We have Amani from Kisiwa Primary School.
A polite round of applause followed.
In second place, we have Grace from Darima Primary.
The students cheered. Temba's heart pounded. His palms were sweaty. Then, the headmaster smiled.
And in first place, with the highest marks in the entire district.
He paused for effect.
Temba Juma from Darima Primary.
For a moment, there was silence. Then, an explosion of cheers. The students clapped and shouted his name. His teachers beamed with pride. Some of his classmates stared in awe, as if seeing him for the first time. Temba rose to his feet, feeling the weight of his struggles lift off his shoulders. He had done it. He had proven that hard work and dedication were more powerful than any hardship. As he walked up to receive his certificate and a brand new set of textbooks, he spotted his mother standing at the back of the crowd. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, her hands clasped over her mouth in disbelief. She had always believed in him, but now the whole village saw what she had known all along. Her son was special. That night, as Temba sat under the moonlight with his new books, he allowed himself a moment of pride. But he knew this was only the beginning. His journey to greatness had just begun. Temba's name was now known far and wide, not just in his village, but in the neighboring ones as well. He had become a symbol of hope, proof that hard work and determination could defy even the greatest hardships. But life, as always, had its own way of testing those who dared to dream. Despite his victory in the academic competition, Temba's struggles did not vanish. His family was still poor. His father's farm still suffered from drought. His mother still went to the market with bundles of firewood, hoping to sell enough to buy food. And worst of all, the school fees he needed for the next term loomed over him like a dark cloud. One evening, as he sat outside their small mud hut, staring at the vast sky, his mother sat beside him.
My son,
she said softly,
I see how hard you work. I see how late you stay up reading and how early you wake up to help us. But I worry for you. You cannot carry all this weight alone.
Temba turned to her, his eyes filled with quiet determination.
Mama, I must. If I don't, who will? I have to make sure we don't suffer forever.
She sighed, reaching out to gently touch his face.
You have the heart of a warrior, my child.
The next morning, something unexpected happened. As Temba walked to school, his teacher, Mr. Okello, called him aside.
Temba, come with me,
he said, leading him toward the headmaster's office. Inside, several village elders, the chief, and even some of the parents from the community were seated, their faces serious. Temba felt the lump in his throat. Had he done something wrong? The village chief, an old man with a deep, commanding voice, spoke first.
Temba, we have watched you. We have seen you struggle, and we have seen you rise. You are not just your parents' child, you are the son of this village.
Temba's heart pounded. He did not understand. Another elder, Mama Naliaka, continued.
We have decided that no child as hardworking as you should have to fight alone. We, the people of Nerima, will contribute whatever we can to make sure you stay in school.
Temba's eyes widened.
But I...
It is settled.
The chief said firmly.
Some will give money. Some will provide books. Some will help your mother sell her firewood. But one thing is certain, you will not drop out of school.
Temba felt his knees grow weak. He had spent years carrying the burden of his family's struggles, believing that he had to do it all on his own. But now, for the first time, he realized something: he was not alone. His people were behind him. Tears filled his eyes, but he blinked them away. Instead, he knelt before the elders in gratitude.
Thank you,
he whispered.
I will not let you down.
With the village's support, Temba no longer worried about school fees. His hunger at night became less frequent, and his mother no longer walked to the market alone. But despite this relief, he did not relax. If anything, he worked harder. He pushed himself beyond his limits, studying even more than before. His teachers noticed. During a lesson one afternoon, Mr. Okello posed a difficult question to the class. Silence filled the room. No one knew the answer, except Temba. He stood up and answered confidently, explaining the solution step by step. The teacher nodded, impressed.
Temba, come here.
Temba walked to the front of the classroom.
From today,
Mr. Okello announced,
Temba will not only be our top student, but he will also tutor those who need help. If you wish to learn, come to him.
The class murmured in excitement. Some students who had once looked down on him for being poor now looked at him with admiration. They saw him not just as a classmate but as a leader. And so, Temba became more than just a student, he became a mentor. In the evenings, When his work was done, children gathered around him with their books. Under the dim glow of lanterns, he taught them math, science, and English. The village champion had become a teacher. One evening, as he packed his books after tutoring, the village chief approached him.
Temba,
He said.
do you see what you are becoming?
Temba frowned slightly.
I am just helping, Mzee.
The chief chuckled.
No, my boy. You are leading.
Temba looked around. He saw the young faces of the children he had helped. He saw their eager eyes, their determination to learn. And for the first time, he wondered, was his purpose greater than just escaping poverty? Was he meant to change the future of his village? As he walked home that night, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying the dreams of generations before him. Temba knew one thing. He was just getting started. His destiny was far bigger than he had ever imagined. Years had passed, but the fire inside Temba never dimmed. He had become more than just a hardworking boy. He was the pride of Nderima village. His name was spoken with admiration by young and old alike. The boy who once struggled to find time to study between work and survival was now the top student in the entire district. But as he grew, so did the weight of his responsibilities. The national exams were fast approaching, and this was his final test before moving on to secondary school. He had worked so hard, but deep inside, he knew one truth. If he did not excel, if he did not top the country's results, he might never afford to continue his education. His dream of changing his family's life, of lifting his village out of poverty, depended on this one moment. On the morning of the exams, the sky was unusually gray. The village was quiet, as if the earth itself understood the importance of this day. As Temba stepped out of his small hut, his mother hugged him tightly.
Go, my son.
She whispered.
Do your best. The ancestors walk with you.
At school, the tension was thick in the air. The exam papers were placed in front of the students. Sweat formed on Temba's brow, but he took a deep breath. This was it. He picked up his pen. The questions were difficult, but Temba had prepared for this moment his whole life. He moved through them methodically, solving each one with precision. He did not allow fear to creep into his heart. The whispers of his village elders, the voices of his teachers, the hopeful eyes of his mother, they all pushed him forward. He would not fail. Days passed before the results were released. The entire village gathered at the school, their hearts pounding in anticipation. When the headmaster finally stepped forward with the results sheet, silence fell over the crowd. Mr. Wanyama cleared his throat. His eyes scanned the paper, and then he smiled.
The top student in the entire district, the student with the highest marks in the national exams, is none other than Temba Juma from Nderima Primary.
The village erupted in cheers. Women ululated, children clapped, and even the men who rarely showed emotion lifted their hands in celebration. Temba stood frozen in shock. He had done it. That evening, a celebration unlike any other took place. The village chief himself visited Temba's home, bringing with him great news.
My son,
he said,
you have done what no one before you have done. Your name will never be forgotten.
Temba looked at him with humble eyes.
I only wanted to make my family proud.
You have done more than that.
The chief replied. He then reached into his robe and pulled out an envelope.
This is a scholarship. A full scholarship to one of the best secondary schools in the country. You will not have to pay a single coin.
Temba's mother gasped, covering her mouth as tears streamed down her face. His father, a man of few words, placed a hand on his shoulder, pride evident in his eyes. Temba felt his heart race. A future he had only dreamed of was now within reach. But before he could celebrate, he looked around at the children of his village, the ones he had taught under the dim lanterns, the ones who looked up to him. He realized that his journey was not just for himself. This was bigger than him. He turned to the village chief and spoke with a voice filled with purpose.
Mzee, I promise you, I will not just succeed for myself. I will return one day. And I will build something here, something that will make sure no child in this village ever has to struggle the way I did.
The chief smiled, nodding.
Then go, my son, and make history.
And so, Temba left his village, carrying with him the hopes of his people. He studied harder than ever, excelling beyond expectations. He became a shining star in the national exams once again, earning a place at the best university. But true to his word, he never forgot where he came from. Years later, he returned, no longer as the village champion boy, but as a teacher, a leader, and an inspiration. With the support of donors and well-wishers, he built the very first secondary school in Darima. The children who once had no hope of a future now had a place to learn, to dream, to rise. And so his name was etched into history. He was no longer just Temba Juma, the poor boy who worked after school. He became Temba Juma, the man who changed a generation. And his legend lived on forever. Lived on forever.